Welcome to this 3P conversation, this podcast recording with Kristin Howarth, who is one of my dear friends and companions on life's journey. She is my Reiki's master's master. I can't remember what your title is. So I'm a Reiki master, but you're above that and were able to empower me with the Reiki master. But you are also an art therapist. And at some point, we're a massage therapist and have all kinds of wonderful tools and tricks in your healing room. I am very, very, very jealous of, I want to say you trust me, but they're not their chakra sound bell things. And you've got all kinds of cards and tools and sound healing. And I know you've done a bunch of trainings that I haven't mentioned, but I am delighted to be here today and chatting with you about Reiki and energy healing and connecting with perspectives that we can glean through that lens of view of Reiki. So let's start by exploring what drew you to Reiki in the first place. I know I've heard your story, but share your story for others that haven't heard your story.
Thanks, Amy, and thank you for having me. Reiki. Well, as you said, there are a few sort of individual tools or modalities in my toolkit, and that started approximately 22 years ago, as you said, with massage. And then it's slowly built from there. So it's been this sort of evolving journey. So the Reiki component came in. I worked with a lady who became my Grandmaster. So
Grandmaster, that's the word I was looking for.
and over a period of probably 8 years, it took me to sort of go from a Reiki level 1 through to Reiki Master and then Grandmaster. But we connected through a retreat she was holding in Bali, and it was one of those sort of situations where I sort of saw it, was drawn to go, and financially it wasn't any problem. It was a problem. And then I had a car for sale. It had sat for 4 months, 5 months. I just couldn't shake it. And I basically turned around to my husband. I mean, the money had various other places to go. And I just said, if we sell it this weekend, being 3 days' time, I'm going to this. Like, that's where the money's going. Yep. And 24 hours later, it's just out of the blue. And the guy literally walked from a house around the corner, and it was gone. And I went to Bali. And my connection with Robin became on a deeper level. And I found out she was a Reiki master. She was in the Central Coast area, so it was easy to get there. And actually the Reiki level 1, she actually came here and I organised other participants.
Yeah, so, nice.
I was drawn to Reiki because I love energy, and I was already doing kinesiology and working with energy in other ways. And during the massage, we'd sort of worked with polarity and things. So I had a good feel for it. I was drawn to the lineage. So the top lineage of where it's all come from in our line. And there are numerous Reikis of all sort of concoctions and different components, but the Yasui Reiki, Mikao Yasui is the founder. And then obviously the people he taught, et cetera, down to myself and then you. So I was sort of drawn to his philosophies, his way of being, and the energy that provided. So that's sort of in a nutshell where it all started from. And I do believe that one thing leads to another if you sort of allow the doors to open, and that evolution occurs. So so it's
there's definitely those ripples that flow through. There's also that element of desire is what I hear and was reminded of as I was listening to your backstory with the car. So there was that I want to do this, and then putting out, I'm willing to take this action to move in that direction. And if it moves me in that direction, so selling the car was an active step towards the desire. And I think a lot of people miss that key piece in energy work on a broader scale than just the Reiki, but that it's like, I've got this desire and I'm aligning my energy with it and I'm not taking any action to make it happen. Why isn't it happening? And so there is an energetic alignment and then there is a movement forward. And I'm noticing that I've been seeing a chiropractor. I think we talked about that the other week when we were chatting. But she keeps reminding me, she's like, you come, you see me, and there is an alignment, and it's the physical body alignment. And now you need to actually go and like follow through on the actions that go with that. Just seeing me twice a week, and I'm seeing her twice a week, isn't going to change everything. There needs to be other shifts that happen as well. And that alignment, the physical alignment, then leads to the desire. Like I'm noticing my posture is much better. I'm noticing that I'm sitting at the computer and going, actually, you know what, I need to get up and move and all of those kinds of things. So the energetic alignment gives us that reset in the moment, but unless we take it back into the world with us, and this is true of Reiki or any of the energetic alignments in the kinesiology, it's now we've got to actually start to embody it. It's not a magic wand that is a cure-all. It's a starting point.
And I think that's a huge point there too, Amy. And I think, you've heard it many times from me, the setting of intention, like, it's just the
Yeah,
intention that's sort of, but with that also, and that action taking that you're speaking of, it's the energy exchange. So to sit there and expect to receive and transform and shift and become balanced and calm in the moment, and heal physical attributes and all of the things that go with it, that's awesome. But it's sort of, you've got to meet it. You've got to, like you said, you've got to take the action. You've got to do the work. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure your chiropractor's happy to see you fortnightly for the next, 10 years, as far as her hip pocket's concerned.
yeah,
But, how much sooner will you meet the outcome you're desiring when you're doing the work at home and you're taking that action, you're setting that intention. So,
yeah,
yeah, very much so. Reiki and the other energy work is the same. And, and I have some clients that come weekly just because they can, and they want to chat and they want to heal at a deeper level, but they're still at home doing the work. It's not like they're just
yeah,
coming in week out and we're going in circles and we're not getting anywhere. They're doing stuff at home. I've got other ones that do more at home and then only come monthly, but again, some do. They come sort of monthly, 3 monthly. They feel good for a couple of weeks, and that they're happy with that. They come back in, and it's the same thing. And we've had the conversation that things would last. There'd be more longevity. They'd actually be moving rather than just cycling in the same sort of
yeah,
wash pit. They'd be able to change their clothes, and they'd be moving forward. But I meet them where they are, and if that's what's working for them and they're happy to do that, then yeah, who am I to judge? But
yeah,
in saying that, yeah, if you really want to embrace and embody the shifts that are possible, then yeah, a little bit of work on both sides. It's sort of like baking the cake, but not mixing the ingredients, but not putting it in the oven. You're just
yeah.
not going to get you're just not going to get there. Like, it's just not, the outcome is you're cooking, but it's not quite complete, or baking the cake and leaving the milk out. Like, it's sort of, yeah, the outcome is going to be slightly different.
Well, and that was what attracted me to do Reiki level 1 with you initially, was I wanted the tools for myself. I don't even think I did a session before I showed up to Reiki level 1. I tend to and that's how I've tended to approach everything. I hadn't had a coaching session when I signed up for, actually, that's not entirely true. I'd had not what I would necessarily deem now as a coaching session, but I had been working with someone who had said they were a coach. And with what I bring to coaching and with what they were bringing to coaching, we're talking very, very different worlds. But I had had a little bit, but I signed up to the coaching training because I wanted the self-empowerment. And it
Mhm.
was the same for me in the Reiki. I wanted the self-empowerment. What makes you so magical that you can have the tools and I can't? And I do that with, and you are magical and amazing, and your ability to serve people, I am deeply grateful for. But there is also an element of, I want to step into my own power and I want to step into my own empowerment. And that's the journey. And that's going to come for different people at different times. So my
100%.
husband is currently seeing you, and I said to him the other day, I said, right, you got level 1 in June. And he's like, I don't know that I'm ready for that. I said, I don't know that you get a choice. And obviously he does get a choice. But I've reached a point where I want him to step into self-empowerment. It's all good and well going. And the work you are doing with him is amazing, but it has
Yeah.
an expiry date on it, like not in terms of continuing the work, but in terms of how long it lasts, because he goes and he sees you and everything is reset. And he quite likes your chakra chimes as well. I suspect they're on my bucket list when I can find someone that does something similar. But he comes and I can tell. It's like, okay, now you need to go and see Chris because there's not that self momentum
Yeah.
happening. And to me, that's really weird because I just dive straight in for the self momentum and the how do I do it. And for me, it's learning how to actually be more receptive to other people providing that. And Reiki did open that door for me quite significantly. But that self empowerment, that to me is a key piece of how we leverage it, and it then becomes a blend of what can I do for me and how do I leverage and utilize people that have done more training than me in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say has been the greatest shift? I'm realizing how broad this question is and like everything is the answer, but what would you say is the greatest shift that you've noticed from having been immersed in the energy healing in general or the Reiki,
Yeah.
depending on where you want to take it?
So you're touching base just on the energy work in general, I guess, because that was sort of like, the one that came first before specifically Reiki.
Mm.
Just the ability to transform on all levels. So, massage is great and remedial massage is awesome, but learning about treating the cause rather than the physical symptoms. So
Mm.
adding the energy into that, whether you're dealing with, I'm a firm believer of every physical ailment, I don't care what you throw at me, is going to have an emotional seed, end of story. That seed was planted through an experience, good, bad,
Mm.
indifferent. And like everything doesn't always relate to trauma too. People get caught up on that. Like, I've had this
Yeah.
trauma and it's, now this is what's happened and stuff. And I mean, it can be a fun experience, but it can be an experience that shocks your energy,
Yeah.
causes that misalignment. So if we look at yourself as a house, when the energy is misaligned, I say to people, it's like the safety switch is gone, your lights have gone out.
Mm.
You've got to rewire, bring in your energy work, turn your
Yeah.
safety, like bring your lights back on. And that experience can just come from shock or something. It doesn't have to be, this hell-bent sort of traumatic experience. Of course, they, definitely do ricochet. So in relation to your question, it's, the energy work sort of drew me in because it was going on a much deeper level.
Yeah. It's that moment we can dive below the surface level into the depths of things. And for me, the draw to Reiki was that the coaching was very much the intellectual level, and it was very much the mind and the reframes. And I have entire libraries full of things about that. And there's something deeper. And so for me, incorporating in the energy work was the how we go to that core. And like you say, it's not necessarily stemmed from a trauma as such, depending on how that's defined. It's also definitely not, and I suspect we're aligned in this, we'll find out in a moment, and I don't mind whether we are or we're not, but it's not stemmed from we're broken and need fixing. It's stemmed
Mm.
from we're whole and complete, and how do we reconnect to that? And I find those two approaches chalk and cheese. So there are a bunch of people that are working on the assumption, and this was my first 20 years in sort of personal development, and I was going through therapy and counseling and various postnatal depression courses and all of those kinds of, but they were stemmed in you're broken and you need to find where you broke and fix that. Whereas the energy work from, it's like you're whole and complete. How do we reconnect you to that and
Mm.
reconnect you to being aware of that? Because it wasn't ever disconnected. It's just been covered in muck is my perspective of it.
Yeah, I'd
And
agree.
I suspect most of that we're aligned on, and you'll have your own perspective on, and I'm open to you sharing your own perspective. We don't have to agree. We're after multiple perspectives. That's the whole purpose of the podcast.
Yeah, no, I definitely align with that, in relation to, you know, my take is that we label way too much anyway. So
Mm,
if we're labeling, I'm broken, I need to be fixed as such. No, it's sort of I'm Kristen. My energy is misaligned at the moment, or there's been a fuse
yeah,
go out. My fuse is shot. I'm not shot,
yeah,
but how can I fix that fuse? And we still function with a broken
mm,
fuse. We're still adulting, having this human experience, however that shows up. But can we do it with more ease and more flow?
yeah,
Can we come from a place of being aligned where things that have happened sort of 5, 6, 7 times in our lifetime and have caused us to, hide under the doona in the fetal position and don't want to come out and play, it's all too hard.
yeah,
Can those things happen again where it's sort of like, oh, I'm aware of that, but I'm not disturbed, or I'm not sort of needing to take a week off to energetically recover, because it's our energy that's, when it's misaligned or it's had that sort of process, then it's that recalibration. We do it naturally, like we all
yeah,
have energy, like we all have the ability to do that, but the Reiki, I guess, is upsizing the frequency and the vibration, and it's giving
mm,
direction. There wouldn't, and I speak from my own sort of perspective here, and again, it could be left field for other people, but you could sit there and channel your own energy and work magic,
mm,
but there's not a lot of people, and again, my purpose perspective, if they're not guided or there's not some sort of structure, then yeah, it's going to take a lot longer. So you come and do a Reiki one weekend, you get the tools. Yes, it's handed down.
yeah.
And like I said before, there's dolphin Reiki, there's dragon Reiki, there's moon Reiki. I don't know. There's just so many,
There's
but
all kinds of variations
yeah, yeah.
coming
So
to light.
you can sort of, with, and which is just people's downloads.
Yeah,
As Mikhail Yasui's was, it was just that was the one I was drawn to. I was put into place, as I said, with Robin, and that was the general sort of navigation through that journey.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I don't believe that people would take the time, and then there's the conflict of, am I doing it right? Or because they're channeling it, it's sort of like, well, where's their benchmark? That sort of thing. So yeah, but it's definitely, I feel it's something, and people do Reiki for themselves,
mhm,
to have it in their toolkit. Other people that are using other modalities do it as an addition or a branch to their tree.
yeah,
Some people, I've had people do the Reiki training just to support their children and their friends.
yeah.
So there's different ways, courses for courses, so to speak. So
Yeah, everyone will come to it for their own reasons.
mm,
What I picked up on what you were saying, though, so everyone can access it. We don't need to do a Reiki training to access it necessarily. We do need something as a catalyst, though. So Mikao Usui had his awakening on the mountain, and I'm reminded of Ra having his awakening somewhere in Ibiza, I think it was, and changing his name from Alan to Ra, which is the human design creator, for anyone not familiar with that. And sometimes there will be those moments of self-initiated or universally initiated, but for most of us, we need a human experience and a human connection and that ritual or rhythm or something. So for me, the Reiki activations that I've been through were empowering to me because they created that ritual around it and it drew my focus into it really clearly. And
mhm,
without that, I don't think I'd have got to where I got as a result of having that. So having that experience and that ritual placed around it, and it doesn't matter what the ritual is, but generally if we're coming from a place of we're not familiar with this, and let's face it, most of the world is not familiar with playing in the energy realm, and it's becoming more wide spoken now. But without that activation, without that ritual, um, I can't remember if I shared this with you the other day or not, but Michael often comes home from his sessions with you and he's like, she does all of this weird woo stuff, and I'm sure it's got some kind of purpose, but it's all just a bit weird. I mean, he would quite contentedly just go in and all you'd have to do is stand and channel the energy from his feet. Like, he doesn't, but he's like, but there's this weird stuff and there's this ritual to it. But that ritual becomes quite powerful in helping shift our focus. And when we don't have the capacity to just shift our focus because we haven't built that muscle, it's funny. I can't remember if I shared this with you the other day either. I don't think I did. But I've been tapping back into my own connection with Reiki and the activation. And I know that there is a beautiful, almost prayer-like activation that we were taught in. I know it exists. I don't know what it was. And at the moment I'm waking up and of a morning, I'm connecting and I'm just giving myself 5 or 10 minutes reconnecting to the energy. And I even just thinking about it now, I can feel like the energy coming through my hands. But the affirmation that I have to go with it is by the power of Grayskull. Like, it's just and so but it's the ritual that comes with it,
Yeah.
however ridiculous that sounds and is, but it allows the focus to come through. And that's what we're aiming for through
Yeah.
the rituals. From my perspective, you're welcome to expand on that and collapse some of the weirdness that I just brought. But the rituals and the energetic alignments and activations, it's that moment of activation that comes through when somebody steps into it.
100%. And yeah, and I mean, I say this with a lot of love, but if there wasn't a strange conversation happening, talking with you, I'd
Yeah.
be quite surprised. Like, I don't know, if you'd said I
If
am,
I was following all of the
I would
rules,
have
I
gone,
think you
not
would fall off
possible.
your chair.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, if anyone's going to be able to speak of me and the ability to be flexible with the student, I think you are probably in the
Oh,
hot seat for being able to say that.
that tends to be true of any of the mentors that I continue to work with, is that they have to be flexible with the student, because I don't play, but I used to, and I used to make myself conform in trainings, and I know when to not. Like, there are times within a training where it's not appropriate for me to bring my quirks to life. It's generally done very respectfully and either one-on-one with a facilitator, mentor, trainer, whatever it is that I'm working with, or timed appropriately within the training, because I understand that most people do need to follow the routines and the structure, and they need that little bit of guidance. And certainly by the time I came to Reiki, I'd broken free of conforming, and so you got the, I want to say evolved Amy, but maybe
Yeah.
devolved,
But
depending
I
on your
mean,
perspective.
you landed respectfully, and at no time did I feel that you were going to disrespect the information, like, that was given, and there was still going to be a respect to the process. And if you were to teach it, it was going to still have those values and those
Yeah, well,
intentions.
certainly if I teach Reiki, I'm going to teach the affirmation from the book, not by the
Yes.
power of Grayskull. But I will possibly share that, because I think it's important that we find, like, it can
Yeah.
be as simple as Reiki on. It doesn't, but the ritual often brings us focus.
Yeah. And we are awesome husband, like, in relation to him, and without unpacking or disclosing
Yeah.
anything at all, I know he loves the Reiki chime, the chakra
Yeah, the
chime,
chakra
um,
chimes.
but we made a pact, because I mean, sometimes there is a conversation to be had during a session, not so
Yeah.
much in a straight Reiki session, but because we do a little bit of the kinesiology
I
work
was
as
gonna say
well
you
and stuff.
blend in the kinesiology,
So
yeah.
there's a sort of blend of other modalities coming into play in the workspace, or the healing space. But I've met him with we have and I'm going to say 5 minutes, but it's not always that, chat at the beginning. And then
If
he
you can get 5 minutes of chat from my husband, you're doing amazingly, especially in that realm.
so yeah, I've said, and I picked that up on the first one. I said, I realize that conversation, you don't want to sit here and unpack this, and that's, there's times and places for it. So I've sort of met him, yeah. And I mean, let's just state that he's on the table, he's got his eyes closed, so if he's feeling the ritual, it's the energetical ritual rather than me waving my hands around and stuff. And I must say, I do keep it fairly simple. There's not many people out there that you could just place your hands on. I mean, I know it works, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If you could just put your hands on their feet for an hour, there's a lot of people out there that would feel like they were parting with hard-earned money for what? So the moving of the hands is more for the client than specifically, because if you put your hands on the feet and the energy needs to go to the nose, it's going to get there. Like, you know, that's just the way energy is. I mean, I could sit in the corner of the room and just hold the energy and it's going to go where it needs to go. Like, I don't even have to touch.
Yeah.
But people that aren't tuned in or aligned and have that level of understanding and trust,
Yeah.
then yeah, we can definitely be needing to do other things. I mean, I do use, like I said, bringing other things in. I use color and light and inanimate objects that hold certain energies, shells, sticks, whatever.
Yeah.
So there is that component, but he does get the very minimal verbal communication compared to a lot of my other clients. But yes,
Which is
but he
exactly what he was looking for. And
exactly.
so it's coaching 101. It's any modality where we're working with people, calibrate to the client. And the
100%
energy
meet them
allows
where
us
they
to,
are.
yeah, meet them where they are. And it's so key for us, for ourselves, when we're doing stuff for ourselves, is to meet ourselves where we are. So
Mhm.
often we will try and shift or create, or which is why I'm currently embracing. So I think it's the green lady within. Some people are aware of like my parts work and my play. The green lady is embracing the by the power of grayscale. She is communicating through. There's a term for it. It's in the autistic assessment. And when I went and did Victoria's autistic assessment, I answered the question no, and then I came back. I can't remember the term though. But when I got home, within about 5 minutes of being in the house, I realized that both her and I do whatever this thing is called, where we communicate through quotes and sayings and music lyrics. And my entire family does it. And the reason it doesn't look odd to me is because my entire family does it. The worst thing with the autism assessment, it's like, tell me what your children do that's weird. And I'm like, well, all of the things that I do that I don't know that are weird. Just
That's right. That's our normal. So
that's our
define
normal.
weird. Yeah.
Define weird. But that's
But
where that phrase is coming from, is tapping into that's an energy, and there's a transformative energy around it, and it matches and it aligns with what my intention is, which is what everything comes back to when you work with Chris. It's the
the
intention.
intention, I know, I sound like Groundhog Day.
And
Intention.
and that's okay, but it is bringing that intention, and then from that intention, we get the focus and we get the direction and then we get the clarity. And so whether we're doing that through chakra chimes and cards and shells and sticks and rocks, or whether we're doing that through just absorbing the intention from the hands on the feet, is up to how open and receptive we are in the moment, and how much, as you said, the trust that we have in both ourselves and the practitioner. And
Mm,
so it's building that self-trust, and that's where we can start to empower ourselves and move in a direction that allows us to create the magic for ourselves.
100%. I'm just going to touch base when you were talking earlier about other modalities and
Mm,
psychologists and that sort of thing. And there's definitely, um, I think there's room, because we're all so unique, we're all so different. There's room for so many modalities. There's so many
yeah,
ways to approach healing, and it's not a one size fits all. Otherwise, it'd all just be about acupuncture. It'd all just be about Reiki, or it'd all just be about massage.
yeah,
But I think for me, my personal experience, I suppose, where I felt the big shifts, and kinesiology was the first model that came on board as far as about rebalancing the energy.
yeah,
I was seeing a psychologist for a couple of years, so I'd go in once a week, once a month, as over time. So I had a situation when I was a lot younger, 7, yeah, 7.
mm,
I was in a robbery, and I was the only one in the store besides the people that owned it, worked it. And there's like this gun being waved around and things. Anyway, I got to 40 and I thought, it's nothing. Like, people would
mm,
talk about it and I'd go, oh yeah, I was, something can come up about that, robberies or whatever, and this stuff. Anyway, I had some people around me that were playing with drugs and doing a few random things, and I started to feel my energy shift. And
Mm.
anyway, suddenly, yeah, this PTSD came out of nowhere because the thing I'd been told when I was 7 by the police was, "Oh, it's just a druggie. He's just after
Mm.
drugs." And it wasn't until it was actually in my sphere and
You were
they're bad
exposed to the
people,
trigger.
and yeah, and this trigger. And so I chatted to people, and I mean, I was doing energy work and stuff then. It wasn't, this is, I'd already been holding that space, but I think in that situation, holding space for myself wasn't possible because my my fuse had like well and truly fizzed.
Yep.
So I started talking with a psychologist, and the thing I found with that was all good and well. We did do some good work, and it was, a long term thing. That was like 2 years. So I did do energy work on the side with other people as well. But what I'm getting to is psychologists, you'll sit down and you'll chat, and there's a time for that. But a lot of the time, I came out of that with bags of stuff
Yeah.
that we talked about. What was I meant to do with it?
Yeah.
Like I'm dragging this, like it was all in here, and it was well and truly hidden, and it was in a box, and I had the lid on it, and I was fine. And now you've got it. You've gone filled my Coles shopping bags, and I've now got to carry this, and I
Yeah.
don't know what to do with it. The beauty of the energy and the Reiki, and you can, correct me from your own experience if it's not
Mm.
your take on it, is that you don't have to know. You don't have
Mm.
to have a conversation. You set the intention,
Yep.
you create the space, and the energy will do the clearing. I mean, yeah, sometimes you got to talk about it, but it's not like you've got to relive the experience, unpack it, blow by blow. Again, there's times where it's, you've got to have that conversation, but you're having it on this level. You're not having it on the world's exploded level. And it's moved. So you leave feeling lighter. You don't feel like you've suddenly got Santa's sack over your shoulder and you're trudging through to the next session because you haven't finished.
Yeah.
And that's the calling for the energy work, I believe. So
Well, and there's definitely times where I've had both experience with both modalities. So the psychologist experience was definitely interesting. I think it depends on the person doing the healing. So whether it's the psychologist or the Reiki therapist or whoever, and the perspective that they're coming from. That takes us back to are they coming from the you are broken and you need to be fixed? Which
mhm.
is where I would say the majority of psychologists are coming from. That medical model is based on lack and absence, and like it really
Trauma.
comes from this broken and fixed and trauma. There are psychologists and coaches and talk therapists that don't come from that angle, and I always walked away from them feeling lighter, but I've also had the experience where I've walked out feeling heavier. And so
Mm,
that perspective of how are they approaching the therapy or the healing, depending on which angle we're looking at it from, it's the same thing, it's just different terminology for it. But I've also had sessions with energy healers where I have come out feeling absolutely drained and depleted because they're bringing you're broken and you need to be fixed, and oh, I've uncovered this and you've got this blocked chakra and blah blah, like, and so they then hand over the bag. So I think it's not necessarily the modality that creates the issue, but the person
provider.
providing and their limitations in knowing their own perspectives. Because if we've expanded and we're open to there's no one size fits all, and there's plenty of modalities and there's plenty of ways to approach within the modality calibrated to the person in front of us, then we're going to calibrate to the person in front of us. And if they don't want to talk, then we do more energy healing work, and we can decrease the amount of conversation depending on how, like, sometimes you've still got to prod at that and get some words out. But there's also the energy movement. I can feel the energy moving, but I actually need to express this and feel heard, and there's a space for that as well. And so again, it comes back to calibrating the person in front of you. But if any practitioner has got a rigid, this is how I do this,
Yeah.
then we're limiting who we can serve and who we can help. And so the more expanded our perspective is, the more expanded our modality range is, the more people we can help to, and that's true whether we're helping others or helping ourselves. If we've limited to ourselves of this is the way it is and this is how it's always going to be, well, then we're going to really struggle to transform and change things. Whereas when we're open to, well, actually, we can shift this, and we can shift this in multiple ways. Maybe we need a conversation, maybe we need an energy healing session, maybe we need something else entirely, whatever it is. And so, yeah, the practitioner, I find, plays far more part in whether we walk out feeling depleted. And over the years, I've worked with numerous coaches. I did coach mentoring for a while, and as that, often I would get them to coach me directly because it's far easier to give direct feedback on how well they did calibrating when I'm the person that they're calibrating. And some of them I walked away going, oh my God, you're amazing and you've got that skill to calibrate and connect. And others, like, there's some work to be done there to calibrate. But it comes down to how much we can expand and hold and calibrate the person in front of us. And the energy work as a companion to the talk therapy work works really well because you get both. And the energy work definitely helped me increase my capacity to calibrate. Like, it just gave me another plane of existence to connect through, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's like you say, it's that it's almost like it's fine tuning your feelers. So, there's
Mm,
more receptivity, there's more ability to navigate, and it's sort of, I guess, like learning a second language. You're
yeah,
expanding your repertoire of capacity and what's possible,
yeah,
in that realm. Um, and I think it's important to sort of say, like, all this talk about different modalities and different therapists and stuff. It's energy, very much so. Um, you can find yourself, if you need to see a doctor, and you can't get into your doctor or something, you go to the next doctor because you need that information now or whatever the situation is. Energy work is very much a tactile thing
mm,
because just like when you walk into the room, you've gone out, someone's invited you to a party and there's a whole group of people you don't know. You walk into the room and
yeah,
you're drawn to go and talk to this person over there in the corner, or you're in the same vein, you're also repelled from going over into that space because something's not right. I mean, that's literally your energy, and that's how you find your, for want of a better word, therapist, but your energy practitioner. Because if you're going to the person that's in the corner that you've sort of gone from, it's not gonna work. The energy exchange has to be mutual. It's,
yeah,
and there can be a case of, like, just a query of, like, "Okay, I'm reading the energy," but if you're getting a straight out, like, "No, like, I'm gonna turn around and get out," then you don't wanna work on that because there's enough people in the other side of the room that you'll meld with straight away. There's no
yeah,
need to, um try and, I don't know, ego gets in the way. It's sort of like, I'm gonna like that person, or I'm, whatever.
yeah,
And it comes back to, when you're first working with it, it's that sort of trusting your gut. So, um, you know, asking yourself, is it right? Does it feel right? Being guided by that in the beginning. And
yeah,
definitely within your realm of having a session, I say it to every first time client, this is your healing, this is your hour. If you get 20 minutes in and you go, not what I was thinking, it doesn't feel right, whatever, I said, you're entitled to, you can just say, look, I need to finish it there. We don't sit down and unpack, oh, well, why? Like, I have thick skin. I'm not taking it personally. It's on you. Like, like,
yeah,
it's fine. But also I give them permission to own that, because there's no point them lying there for another 40 minutes,
yeah,
in that space, and I can honestly say I've never had anyone do it. But if the ability to do that, like, I'm giving them that permission, because until they've worked with you a while, they may not realize that that's a possibility. But
yeah,
we also have to, they're giving me permission to work in the space, but they're also sort of giving themselves permission to allow the healing.
yeah,
And we set the intention, and they get their, for want of a better word, homework. I call it expansive work, or holding the connection, or baking, depending if they're a cook, they're a person that cooks or not, whatever way to look at it. But they go home with some steps and some activities to do on a daily basis. And that, again, like we were talking, that extension of, are they coming weekly, are they coming monthly, are they doing something at home to push them through? So and I've got various handouts and check sheets and stuff that they can use as as that sort of component. But so
Well, and I think that connection, the consistent connection, and allowing ourselves that space to build whatever the ritual is for us to connect with ourselves. And maybe we need to connect with someone to activate that for us, but then to continue it and maintain that momentum, to have some movement consistently, is the way to navigate and build the muscle. And the other thing that I would add on the finding the right practitioner, sometimes it's the right practitioner at the wrong time. And so there are times to weave back to something I'm thinking I did recently that so human design, I'd moved away from. My initial exposure to that was appalling, and it was the wrong practitioner with the right modality. But it took me 2 or 3 years to come back and discover that it was a good modality. I mean, I've got plenty of modalities. I suspect Reiki was similar as well. It was finding the right person at the right time. There's definitely that connection of, this isn't for me now. Psychology served me really well for years, and I did go back to a psychologist at the end of last year for 1, maybe 2 sessions, and then and now I've got what I needed from that. I'll move back on to other things and come back into the energy work and the coaching. Psychology and coaching play from different ends of a spectrum, and it's finding what's going to help us move forward that matters most. And so allowing for that, and testing, like, explore the values of the practitioner. One of the things about the online world, which we don't necessarily get with the psychologists, is that there's so much that we can collect from that person. There's content we can read, and there's communities we can join, and classrooms we can access, and downloads that we can play with to see, is this aligned for me or not? And then that permission to just acknowledge, okay, this isn't working for me, or this is working for me. I want more of this, and trusting that and following the paths where it is working for us to continue through.
And life's a journey. So, and I mean, other than our husbands and our children, and not even always then, considering I've been married twice, but, blood relatives or whatever. But I mean, there's still disconnection in those circumstances as well. But I guess what I'm saying is they're sort of generally a more long-term situation.
Yeah.
But you sort of look at, your friends you've had from, say, kindergarten to current, and how many of them are still around, and who's still in your field and who's playing. Because as you expand your awareness, you increase your, experiences, whether it be adding modalities or just life experiences, as you mold, like, that journey is forever evolving. And just like the snake sheds the skin, it's the same thing. People come in and out of our lives, be it our therapists, be it our friendships, and family too. So having that openness of, this might be only for 6 months, this might be for, 4 or 5 years, it might be for 12 months, and then in 3 years I need another 12 months. Like, so it's just to have that fluidity and honoring yourself. And that's when I think that's one of the true blessings when you're working with the energy, because Reiki is ultimately for you first and foremost. What you do with that attunement, what you do with that alignment, what you, whether you just use it on yourself, whether you build more rituals, whether you use it on family, it's your innate ability to connect to that source, and really trust as you navigate the journey. Having that ability to reset, but yeah, it's very much, Reiki 1 and 2 is very much, well, Reiki 1 definitely is very much about the person and the growth in the person. Reiki 2 gives you the tools to send it via distance, so you can send it to others and what have you. But also it's expanding your own intuition and your own connection. So again, it can still be a very personal experience. You don't have to ever send it to anyone else. but you can download messages easier and those sort of things. And then mastery is really is about the teaching and the expanding and the sharing with others, and deepening your connection with the lineage and that sort of thing, and further in-depth processes. So but yeah, I mean, my belief is that you can do up to mastery for self, as well, and that's
Yeah,
if you can support yourself, that takes the need to reach out to others as often. I mean, there's definitely still a need for that as far as I'm concerned, too, because we can no one's awake enough to have all their blinkers off. There's stuff hiding under doonas and stuff that
absolutely.
no one's looking at, like, unless someone else goes, well, actually, why don't we poke this bear,
Well, and we're all operating in relationship. Like, unless we're living under a rock in the middle of a forest somewhere, we're all operating in relationship and we're all going to be exposed to other people. We're also all driven by that co-regulation. And
Mm,
so one of my rants that I won't go into too in depth here, but one of the rants is this striving for independence is bullshit. We're not meant to be independent. We're meant to be in community and in connection with people. And it's
mm,
finding the right people to connect with, but those energy exchanges are happening all the time. And are we attuned to and are we tracking what we're bringing and what others are bringing as well? And so,
mm.
but there is definitely time for receiving support and reaching out and having connection and receiving feedback, getting that outside perspective. I want a better word. I don't have a better word, but from someone with a wet brain. And the reason that I say from someone with a wet brain is I'm distinguishing between the AI and the
The
connection
real
with
human
humans.
experience. Yeah.
And there's a place for, I asked AI earlier, I'm like, here, look at this profile and tell me what it says about me. And there's a place for that. But that doesn't do anything for my energetics. It certainly
Yeah.
it soothed my mind in the moment, and the answer it gave, I'm like, yep, that's the answer I wanted. Great, now I can move on. But
Yeah.
in terms of the energetics, there are real humans that are going to need to look at that and connect with that and then have that conversation and have the feedback and have that exploration, because the energy exchange with the artificial intelligence just isn't the same as the human experience.
Yeah. No, I'd have to agree. Definitely, again, a place for it, but yeah, you're not going to get the nurturing, the empathy, that sort of human experience feedback from the AI. But I mean, yeah, you're still talking about those experiences and things, and I mean, that's the thing. Like, for you look at me, I just turned 50 in February. So there's 50 years of experience. Like, every
Mm,
minute, of every day, we're receiving information, we're having experiences, we're getting feedback, we've got the ability to shift our energy.
yeah,
And that's why, yeah, if you're going for a healing once a month, there's still so many other days of the month that you're going to be building, let
yeah,
alone shifting. So, I do promote very much the self-care of, taking ownership and doing the work
mm,
daily, even a small step just to keep you balanced and things. And I mean, I think there's enough of our experiences that we could sort of unpack individually, given the right tools and resources, e.g., doing a Reiki training or what have
yeah,
you. But even I find that clients that have been coming regularly for a period of years have enough wisdom and lived experience in the healing space that there's certain things that they can, or certain levels they can get to, unpacking at home, and then they'll say, okay, well, XYZ's no longer relevant to bring to a healing, or they say, I've done this to this, and now can you see what I'm ignoring, or have my blinkers on because I'm not going down there. And yeah, as humans, we can sort of fake it and pretend that that's not relevant. So sometimes it's nice just to surrender and say, okay, well, give me the feedback. What am I missing?
yeah.
And I say that, for myself as well, with other, like, therapists myself. I go in and I go, well, I think it's this. And they go,
Yeah. Coaching 101, what the client thinks the problem is not the problem.
Yeah.
Well, because if we can see it, we'd solve it.
Yeah, 100%.
If it was obvious to us, we would find the solution. And so those moments of going and seeking feedback is important, but those moments of allowing ourselves to sit with ourselves and connect with ourselves and allow our attention to expand. And I know you've got some great rituals for that. There was another point that came up while you're speaking just then that I've lost.
It'll circle back.
It will. Oh, it was the small steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, one of the pieces that I took from the Reiki 1 training was and there's far more to it, but the just for today.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to solve the rest of your life and just focus on, and I've taken it down to like just for this minute, like just for this moment.
Yeah.
Because sometimes just for today, and
It's
not so much
easy.
now, but we had a bit, we had a big year last year with lots of stuff happening, and just for this moment was all I could navigate for a lot of last year. And then just for today, and then just for this week, just for this month, just for this year, just for wherever I friggin' choose. It expands out continually. But those just for this moment, my apologies, hang on, I'm going to mute and cough. The narrowing to just for this moment. But the reason I was able to narrow to just for this moment and do it as well as I did through everything last year was that I had built up those tiny rituals and I had things to draw from. So for anyone wanting to dive into those tiny rituals, I know you've got something to offer. What would you say to them in around building those tiny rituals, movement magic or magic moves, or I've got the name of what we're promoting, but
the 5 magical moves. Yeah. So, I think too, your description of that experience really nailed it on the head too. And people, listening may or may not have made that connection, but when we're doing a lot, like your year was busy last year, you can't, it's that energy exchange. There's so much already going that if you tried to match that in your energy work, the depletion would actually be greater because you've only got sort of, it's already sort of signed, sealed, and delivered elsewhere. So to use the energy you have left to strengthen and build your energy is really important. And meeting yourself without judgment of like, today, they talk about it in the worlds of, people that are saying that they're labeling themselves as depressed and things. It's like literally today I got out of bed and had a shower and I'm celebrating that. And booyah to them, like that's awesome. And it's literally having that permission to meet yourself where you are and celebrate those small wins. And I know you talk about your, to-do list rather than your to-do list and stuff. And I mean, that one I love. It's great. I'm forever, writing many lists, many to-dos, and putting the to-do over in another corner. And sometimes those things get on the to-do, but sometimes it's literally, I went to the bathroom, I went to the toilet, I had a shower, I brushed my teeth, and I was like, ta-da, 4 times, like ka-ching.
Yep.
Anyway, I digress. So, yes. So, and I'm very much a teacher, and that's sort of, I guess, where the Reiki Master and Grandmaster comes in. I'm very much, I feel, my perspective is that I'm here to not only support people in the moment, but actually give them the tools to support themselves. Because, financially, time frame wise, whatever it is, we can't always be reaching to other people. And, with awareness and with self-support comes power too. And I mean, that is in an electrical charge, not so much standing on the mountain roaring. Although we do that too, depending on the person and the circumstances. So I do have a booklet, which the color ink is a bit off, but it's on my website. So it's an actual book that you can print off. And it's 5 magical moves to unleash your bliss. And there's 5 different scenarios, rituals that you can participate in. And you can choose to do all of them in a day. You can choose to do one of them only ever daily. I would suggest that you pick one a day and do it consistently. So whether that's the same one every day for 365 days or you mix it up and do different ones during the week. They're all very sort of self-explanatory, guided step by step. There's one that's switching on, really good for people that have children. So for learning, if you're learning a course, starting a new job, whatever that is, and that will actually integrate your left, right brain, top, bottom brain, front, back brain. So that's literally just sort of getting all the neural pathways activated. And I always picture one of those, where all the atoms and things are flying around above the head. Or you could say the opposite of when a cartoon hits their head and it's all zzz, it's like it's the positive of that. So, and I mean, it's self-explanatory with switching on. There's another one that's letting go, and it's literally sort of drawing out or writing out the situation, whatever's going on in your head. Great for when your buttons get pushed and you sort of and you don't need to take that to the table, and it's not always, because it's your reaction. Like at the end of the day, whether you want to call it being triggered, you want to call it whatever, like that sort of like and that need to scream or get frustrated. It's not what the other person's doing. Like, you got to own it. It's your energy having that reaction, and that can be from a past experience. It can just be from not feeling heard, wherever it's come from. But to write it out, or shout it into a pillow, or have that expression. So the written word, even if it's just a scribble on a page, it's literally that motion, holding a pen, and actually, like, it's literally that energy is coming out your arm. So if you just sit there and go, rah, it's actually not. Anyway, so the writing, you can then burn it, you can rip it up, throw it out, bury it, whatever. And it's just that shredding.
So we don't need to go through all of them. They can access what they're looking for. It's the tapping it back into what we've been discussing.
Mm-hmm.
These are the moments where we get to empower ourselves. These are the moments where we get to have those movements and transform that intention into an implementation, or into, I had a really good word for it earlier, and my alliteration will break whatever other words that I had. So we've got intention and implementation, but there was something, that forward momentum, that's the word I had earlier, but that doesn't match my eyes. But that forward momentum
movement, there you go. Does that help?
Yeah, and it is. It's that forward momentum and the movement, and it is that the magical movements that help us break free. I don't know, there's several patterns that you've got that you cover in that. So the link for that will be either below the video or above the video, wherever you're finding the podcast, you will get access to that video. And of course, if you want to continue the conversations, then the school community is open to those who want to come and be part of the conversations, because the energetic stuff is a component of what we are discussing in there, along with the patterns. Things we didn't cover today include how Reiki taps into the chakras. And I know the kinesiology has a whole other realm. Like, there's so many more conversations that we could be having. And I invite people to come and have those conversations, because that's where we get community and connection. And that also shapes our capacity to navigate our energy. If we're trying to do everything on our own, it can become quite depleting, and we need those perspectives. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Just that energy is, it's about flow. So it's doing those daily practices is keeping that flow as well, because when we're feeling stuck, we're really, quite depleted or what have you. But it's literally like the beavers built the dam, and that stuckness is that build up of pressure, or water in the beaver's case. But when we're doing the work and we're clearing, the blockages, then there's flow. And the one key point I'll say to everyone, that doesn't matter whether you're working with energy or not, if you're foggy, if you're feeling depleted, like, literally have a glass of water. That is the first step in any situation to recovering your energy, because the electricity vibes, whatever way you want to look at it, the water is the carrier. So as soon as you start to feel tired, you feel depleted, you're feeling angry, if you're not able to shift emotion, have a glass of water. That's my number one key. Key sort of, what do you call it? Wisdom that you can take today.
So glass of water, and then maybe download the magical moves and implement them and come and have some great conversations in the community. And between all of that, something's going to shift.
100%.
Thank you very much,
All
Chris.
right. Thanks, Amy.